Welcome to Your Family Dog, a podcast dedicated to helping families love living with dogs. Here are your hosts, Julie Fudge Smith and Colleen Pelar.
Hi, and welcome back to Your Family Dog. I'm Julie Fudge Smith. I'm here with Colleen Pelar, and we are with part 2 with Judy Gladson, flat coat retriever breeder. She got her first flat coat in 1990, dropped her first litter in 1995, and has now produced 18 litters of flat-coated retrievers. She's very active with her dog. She does hunting and obedience, and her dogs have gone to Westminster. And she's here today to tell us about what it's like to be a breeder, that most of us don't know the ins and outs, the daily life of being a breeder. So Judy has agreed to come back and talk with us about what it's like to be a breeder. So Colleen, do you have any questions beyond that, or do we just want Judy to launch right into this?
I think I have the very first question I want to ask is, you have to decide, do I want to breed or not breed? And what made you decide, yeah, I think this dog at this time I would like to breed?
So I was married at the time, and we were encouraged by the breeder we got the dog from, who had been breeding for decades, that this was a really nice bitch and that she thought she was worthy of breeding. So she helped us pick the first stud dog and helped us ask a lot of the right questions. And we kind of launched ourselves into it based on her recommendation. And we had 2 litters together and then got divorced. Not because of that.
I was going to say, this is not encouraging to people who want to become breeders. Oh, by the way, you drop 2 litters, it ruins your marriage. But
anyway, so that's kind of how we got into it. And I'm not sure that we thought about all the different things that go along with it. And we were pretty lucky. It's a pretty easy breed to whelp and raise puppies. You know, they're pretty good mothers. They're easy whelpers. So we were lucky with that. And then she helped us find homes. So we had that. We were lucky with that also with our first litter. And that first litter wasn't very stable in temperament. And we were not actually very happy with that first litter as far as from a temperament standpoint. Now, the one we kept lived to be 14 and a half. She was a little weird. But and then there was good longevity in there, but again, the stability and temperament was not good, so none of them were bred from. And so anyway, so we did try that bitch again. Her name was Kelly, and then that second litter was much more stable. We were a little wiser in the questions we asked. I don't think we asked the right questions the first time of the dog owner and the breeder. I think when you ask questions like, so is their temperament good? Well, that's a very different question than, can you run your male with other males, or can you walk your male into a building at a dog show and not have any issues? You have to get much more specific with questions. And I think that we learned as we went, and then I learned a lot more. And I've learned, by hard knocks too. But it is every day I worry that I'm going to get a phone call or an email. And I'm very particular with my puppy people. Like if they send me an email, and I have one family in Chicago and they've had 3 dogs from me, and they send me an email and the subject is the dog's name. And I'm like, do not send me an email with the dog's name. Send me, dog is fine. Dog is not fine. Call me. Don't send me just the dog's name, because I can't stand it and I can't get the email open fast enough. So, and I have a co-breeder now, and she reaps some of the benefit without getting, she doesn't get the phone calls, and she understands that, and that's, it's the phone calls and the emails. And every day I live in fear, and I have a litter that just turned 8, and I have a litter that's 10, and a litter that's 11 and a half. And, I worry every day. I worry every single day about all of these dogs. I've never lost track of one, and I don't plan on losing track of any of them. I've had to track people down. I went actually on when I was still working. I had no desire to be on LinkedIn because I was happy in my job and I wasn't looking around. But the only way I found this guy in Arkansas was through LinkedIn, and that's how I got back in touch with this guy who had a dog. So I don't stop at too much anything to keep track of people. But I used to send out Christmas gifts all the time to every puppy, and sometimes that would make people feel guilty, and then they would call me. So that worked out pretty well. This past year, I just sent a Christmas card, but that still worked too because I did get some phone calls and some emails. So, but that's what's stressful for me. Or you get the phone call and the person is sobbing on the other end of the phone, and that I always want to be there for them, but it's difficult. It is very difficult. And it's really a passion. You have to be passionate about it. And you have to want to breed and sell these puppies and put them in homes and then support those people for the rest of that dog's life.
Mm-hmm. That sounds really tough.
It is.
So, yeah. So you got into, so why flat coats? Why did you choose a flat coat in the first place?
So when we got married, I had 2 Goldens out of the Baltimore Sun newspaper, which actually turned out to be super, super dogs. They were healthy, and one lived to 12 and a half, one was 14 and a half. They were never sick a day, and they helped raise a couple litters. They were great dogs. And then we ended up buying a fully vetted, well thought out, Golden from a breeder, and it had all sorts of health problems. So, but when we had these 2 Goldens and we got married, my fiance at the time, I think, wanted his own dog because these dogs were, I think, 5 or 6 by that time. And, and I think he wanted his own dog, and he had a brother out on the West Coast who had a flat coat. So that's how, and I liked I've always wanted sporting dogs anyway, except when we all wanted Lassie, because everybody wanted Lassie. But so I've always wanted sporting dogs anyway. So I thought that would be fun, and I thought it would look great with the Goldens and go great with the Goldens, and they did. So that's how we decided on our first flat coat. Now, how we found her, it's because it's difficult to find flat coats. There's the AKC registers like 100,000 Labradors every year, and they register 500 flat coats every year. So it's a big difference in popularity and in being able to find them. And we were moving up here from Florida, and we were driving past this to go to our storage unit, and we saw what looked like a dog show. And neither of us had ever been to a dog show. And we walked up, we parked the car, walked in, and there at the first ring were flat coats. Well, of course they were, right? So
yes, of course.
And then the first person we talked to, we said, we were looking for a breeder, and she said, "Oh, well, I have a litter due in 2 months, in a month." And we said, "Oh, well, of course you do." So we got a car, put down a deposit, and that was it. We thought that was easy. So it was meant to be.
It was meant to be. Yeah, because I was going to say it's even to flat coats are a little bit more common, but a lot of people still today stop me and say, "What?" They know it's a retriever. They know she's a retriever, but they always ask, "Is that like a black golden retriever, or did you mix a black lab with a golden?" And it's like, "No, this is a flat coated retriever." And they're like, "Wow, never heard of it." But actually, it's a pretty old breed, so it's interesting that it hasn't caught on in the same level of popularity. The thing that I love about flat coats is I just remember when I was at Westminster and I was looking at the ring, and all the flat coats were looking at their people, and their tails were all waving, every one of them. And then somebody stopped waving their tail, and they all stopped and looked. And then they all looked back, and the tail started waving again. And that's the thing I love about flatties is that they're very happy dogs, and that makes them very easy to love. So it's kind of like once you've had a flatty, that's it. You're a flat coat person forever. So
have you had any other breeds since then? I mean, are you exclusively flat coat?
I'm just flat coats now. Yes. So I, every once in a while I look at something like a Welsh Springer Spaniel, and I've always kind of wanted a Welsh Springer Spaniel, but I just don't want to add anything else now. This is just easy. So, and I have eight adult dogs, so it's not, or 8 dogs, so they're not all adults, but so it's not like I just have 2, but I don't need to add something different that with a different personality.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
I do a lot of training with Labrador people, and those, I tell you what, those Labradors that are bred for trialing it's generations and generations of breeding for that. And those dogs at 10 weeks old do stuff that my 2-year-olds don't do, because my 2-year-olds are still looking at the butterflies as they fly by, and these Labradors are genetically, they are just designed now to be, retrieving machines. So it's you have to have a sense of humor to have a flat coat, and I tell people that. And they are not good at repetition in training, and I have one right now in a home who she has since become a highly competitive obedience person, and she wants a golden next, because again, there are breeders who breed specifically for obedience and goldens, and they don't look like the goldens in the show ring. There's a big split in a lot of those breeds, setters and the retriever, the goldens and the Labradors, and the flatcoats don't have that. And I hope we never have that. It's nice to take a dog out one day to a dog show, and the next day you go hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
They're a very versatile breed.
So you told us about the anxiety of being a breeder and how you're always worrying about all your babies. What's awesome about being a breeder?
Awesome. So it's really fun when people come to pick up their puppies and enjoy them. And you get, the first week they comment about how the puppy hasn't had any accidents, or it's only had one accident in the house. And, they're thrilled with that, and how the puppy they took it on a walk downtown and nothing fazed it. And so that's awesome. That stuff is awesome. And when the kids come and they pick up their puppy, that's really fun. And then I do enjoy the people who wanted the performance dogs, when the dogs when they turn out to be nice performance dogs. I do enjoy that. And that's fun. And it's fun to be recognized for that across the country, and that my dogs are, they do show and they do performance, and people come to me for a multi-purpose dog. So that's awesome also. And then I've developed a lot of friendships. I have really dear friends in the breed, and we travel around the world together to go look at blackcoats, and we go to dog shows in Sweden and England and Holland, and we've developed a lot of friends over there. I've imported a bunch of dogs from overseas, and so it's the friendships that you develop too through it could be just from owning them, not necessarily breeding, but I think that you do develop a little bit more of a link with other breeders, even in other countries, and that's really important too, because that's really my family now. Is my dog friends from my family.
So I know with flatcoats, the other thing I think that's important about, and it would be interesting and I think fun to have these breeding connections around the world, is that's also got to be encouraging to you in a way to be keeping the breed healthy, because it's a fairly small genetic pool for flatcoats, and there's problems with cancer in the line of flatcoats. So I would think that it would be one of the things that would be encouraging for you, and maybe a sense of relief, is getting to know these different breeders, so that you can get different dogs bred, so we can strengthen the lines that are in flatcoats. Do you find that to be true? Have you done some interesting breeds that way, breeding?
I have, and so Zuzu's mother is from Holland, and she's one of the breeders that I really trust there. There's 2 that do a lot of breeding together, and they're just wonderful women. And that breeder's been breeding for, I think, 45 or 50 years, flatcoats.
Wow.
Exclusive. So, and she's awesome, and she knows so much, and you can learn so much from people like that, that have been breeding that long. And it's fun to see them, and they come over here when we have our big dog show, and so that's fun too. It's still a limited gene pool because at some point the gene pool was a certain number of dogs, and that gene pool didn't really get any bigger, but we can diversify a little bit, I think, by bringing in different things, because everything in this country is not so much anymore because there's a lot of imports in. We've brought some other problems in with the imports, but I do think that we are bringing in some different and able to breed to some different dogs now. And with frozen semen and the technology today, I've done a bunch of frozen semen breedings with dogs from overseas, and that really offers a lot. Also, again, this is not for the faint of wallet, and it's not. This stuff is hugely expensive, but it's interesting and it's fun. And we've made such good friends overseas by using some of these dogs and going over and visiting their homes and talking to them about the different lines and what they see and things like that. So that's really fun also. So one of the other things too that I'm really proud of myself for, and I don't normally say I'm very proud of myself, but so I am judging at our national specialty this year. So every breed has a national specialty, and it's once a year. And we get anywhere, if it's on the East Coast, last year it was in York, Pennsylvania, and we had 500 and some odd flackcoats.
Oh, my heavens.
So this year there's about 300, and it's out in Oregon, but I am judging puppies and veterans. So that'll be really fun. I'm really honored to do it. I'm nervous coming up in weeks. So anyway, so that's that is something awesome about being a breeder, is that your club has thought well enough of you to have you judge at their national specialty. So
that's really
congratulations.
Cool. Yeah,
sounds like Julie's going to be booking a trip out to Oregon, surrounded by flatcoats.
The idea of being in a room with 300 flatcoats, I just can't tell you how ecstatic that makes me. But it is a, I think that, it's not a breed for everybody. You're right. They're easily distracted. They kind of never grow up, which is lovely in some ways. But it is kind of hard when your 4-year-old just it's very puppy-like, which is enchanting, except when you really would like him to do something, right. He decides to be a puppy instead. So, but it is a great breed. So so as a breeder, and you've said you have given us some of the heartaches. What are some of the challenges you found in breeding? I was thinking like frozen semen. That would be a huge challenge to me. I can't imagine that there's it's not only that would be not for the faint of heart either.
It is not for the faint of heart or wallet, but it is. So the technology now is so good, and the testing is. You have to do all this testing ahead of time as far as like progesterone, and you have to get the timing right. And so there are reproductive vets that specialize in that stuff now. It's a big business, and it's probably bigger in other breeds, some of the other smaller breeds, than it is in ours, because it is very expensive to do. So a lot of people don't want to do it. But so I have some good reproductive vets that I use here, and I've been happy with them. And but I've done a fair amount. I think I've done 7 frozen semen breedings from old dogs. I used a dog from the 80s, and at one point, and I but the breedings that I've all done were all surgical. So it's a decent surgery for the dog. But there are other methods of doing it now too. But the technology is really, I think it's the horse industry that probably started that technology, and then dogs got into that. But it's so it's pretty easy. You just call up and give people a credit card, and they'll ship you anything.
So, are you more likely to have a successful breeding with a frozen semen because or is a live breeding, or are the success or failure rates about the same?
No, live breeding is always going to be the better bet.
Okay.
And so that's always what you want to try and do. But it's hard, and you can't. And if there are dogs you want to bring in from overseas, the only way to do it is frozen semen. And so there's different ways to do it. There's surgical, and then there's also another transcervical that some repro vets do, but not all of them do. And then the next, after a live breeding, the next one is you can do a side-by-side insemination, and that's like your next bet. And then chilled is the next one, and then frozen. So frozen's really kind of your last resort. But if you're looking for something from overseas or something that's been dead for 15 years, then you have to use frozen. So
that's true.
I'll tell you what, freezing dog semen it's a big business.
All these,
there is a niche for everything in the world.
Yeah.
I don't even want to find out how you get that.
Oh yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't. It's yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's a, and I think that when most people think about, getting a purebred dog and they see some of the cost of it, I don't think they understand the cost of producing a puppy is very high. With the stud fees or the vet bills and so on and so forth. It's an industry that is you're not making a whole lot of money off of a well-bred dog simply because it's
not making any money. And the health clearances that we do too are the Black-Coated Retriever Society of America requires a couple health clearances, but I do a lot more than what they require, and a lot of that's for historical purposes. We don't have a lot of heart issues in the breed, but I now do echocardiograms on all my breeding dogs because I think it's important in case we do have some issues. Goldens have them, Labradors have them, so why don't we have them? I don't know, but if we start to discover some, and there have been some overseas, then we need to at least have some historical perspective on whether we have healthy dogs or not. And cancer seems to be the biggest bad thing now in all dogs, but maybe it won't be at some point. Maybe hearts will be. Well, then we should have some historical stuff on that. So I do a lot more clearances than is required, and an echocardiogram is $600. So it's not, and that's just one clearance.
So do you do that for every puppy?
No, I do that for my own breeding animals.
Okay.
So if I'm going to breed something, then I do an echocardiogram.
Got it.
No, on my puppies, before my puppies go to their new homes, they have their first set of shots, of course, and I microchip them all, and then I do a genetic eye disease at a it's not orthopedic. I just lost at an eye doctor.
An ophthalmologist.
Yes,
ophthalmologist.
Yes, I do that, and then they get a chiropractic adjustment. So that's kind of the things I do before they go home.
And of your 8 dogs, have you bred all of them, or are some of them ones that have never been part of your breeding program?
So I have, one of the oldest one, so we just lost dear Mr. Bingley's brother. Right?
Aww.
So that was, he was 13 and a half. So we just lost him, and he had a good life, and he wasn't sick till the last day. So that was good. But so my oldest now is 11 and a half, and she's had 2 litters, and I have, a daughter and 2 grandchildren here now. And then the next one is 10 and a half. And I have her daughter who has not been bred yet. And then I have, what else do I have? I have one from England who was just bred. So I imported her from England, and she just had her first litter. And then I have 3 that have not been bred yet. So, and they won't all get bred. I'm not sure they'll all get bred. And sometimes I have one like Zuzu that is going to a new home on Sunday. So she's okay in the pack, but I think she'd be better off without, 7 other dogs to compete with. So she's going to a new home in Ohio somewhere. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great place to raise a dog.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just know, like with Zuzu, one of the reasons why I got Zuzu is that although she's a lovely girl, she's not. When you meet her, you realize, yeah, it's probably good she didn't breed her. There's just something about Zuzu that she's not breedable. She's a very sweet, special dog, but that's, you got to make sure you got it right on all ends, not just physical, but temperamental. She's just a little too skittish. She's a little too flighty. She just would not be a dog that I would breed. And so lucky me, I got her. So she's a great house dog, but she's not a good dog to breed. And I think it's really important that breeders, that there's more than just the physical characteristic or the conformation of the dog. Conformation has to include temperament, which we've talked about before. And
it's difficult for, I don't place dogs lightly, and Zuzu would have really only gone to you. I mean, I don't think there's many other people I would have put her with, but I did place another dog that I had, and she was lovely and her temperament was good, but her father, we bred to her father. It was a little bit against my gut, and we bred to him when he was 3.5, because that's a little young for me to for the male, and he died at 4 of an aggressive cancer. So I'm not going to breed from that, Right. So this last litter, the R litter, I was lucky to get because I had 2 misses with jelly, and then was lucky this time. So I was pretty pleased with that I have a jelly daughter now, because I really liked my other jelly daughter, but I didn't want to breed from a dog that died, at 4.
Right.
So
yeah.
Right. And with males, so there's a lovely male that's local, and he's a great dog. His temperament's really good. He's lovely in conformation, and you can wait longer with him. If the rest of the litter and the rest of the father's litter all lives to be good long ages, well, then maybe that dog can be used, but you can't wait with the girls. So they need to be bred by the time they're 4 pretty much. And so I wasn't going to take a chance on that. So she's in a great local home that they've also had a dog from me before, and they have a puppy now also. So they have 2 from me now.
Okay. That's great. So I was going to say too, when you after you send the puppies home, one of the things that Judy does require is that you do a certain panel of tests on the dog so that she can keep track of what happens with these. So when you have a pairing, you don't know what's going to happen with these dogs. So if you keep track of, we do hips and elbows and eyes and thyroid and is that it?
Patella.
So that you can keep track of. And I think that's really, that's got to be something that I would think as a breeder is both fascinating and encouraging and disheartening all at the same time. When you
yes, because at some point, if you breed enough, you're gonna get some issue. You're gonna get a health issue, because that's just the thing about breeding. So it's nice to know, and it's nice to see. And if you have, one litter that has a bunch of, or that had some bad elbows, well, then you might not breed that mother again, or you might be a little more careful where you took that mother next time, or you might require the dog to have, so it is good information. It is hard to get people to do it, even people that stay in touch with me. I've had good success getting a lot of those tests done, but not everybody is as good about it as like Julie is. So.
Yeah. Well, I just feel guilty if I don't. It's like I can't talk to Judy if I haven't got the test done.
Oh, well, good. Guilt works.
Yeah. I tell people that the 2 great motivating factors in my life are fear and guilt, and the fear of guilt will get me to do anything. So. Well, Judy, thank you so much for coming on with us again to talk about what it's like to be a breeder. Colleen, has this put the final nail in the coffin of your breeding?
It may have. Yeah.
So if Jack,
but it doesn't mean I don't want to show up and visit. So I'll just pop in at Judy's house when the next litter comes.
Well, you can do that. Yes, because you're very close.
Always nice to have an extra set of hands.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to play it that way instead of actually doing it on my own.
That's right.
But
Just
thank
go
you
and
for
play.
sharing all your experiences with us.
Yes. Thank you, Judy.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Thank you for having me on. I'm touched and honored. I really am.
Oh, well, thank you. That's always nice to know, too. So, all right. Well, we will see all you lovely people next time on Your Family Dog.
Thanks for listening to Your Family Dog. Got questions? Interesting ideas? Colleen and Julie would love to hear them. Call 614-349-1661 or visit www.yourfamilydogpodcast.com to share your thoughts.